for too long, got to keep.
The first step in generating wealth is to pay yourself first.
I know everybody knows.
Stay tuned.
Stay protected.
Stay focused.
Stay connected.
There's a lot of different types of HELOC products that are now on the market, some of them geared towards velocity banking, and that's really good news.
This is probably the largest asset you will ever have in your life.
Right.
Here's some direction and some instruction on how to leverage this vehicle so that you can help yourself, help your family, accomplish your goals. We're not educated that way.
We use a strategy to pay off our home in 4 years.
Validation of your retirement account says what you thought was a retirement account is no longer one.
When I tell you, you're going to be shocked to learn. If you didn't come from a wealthy family,
You can make sure a wealthy family comes from you. So it starts with pay yourself first. Today,
Yeah, starting today.
right now, put your money in somewhere secure. It's about the ability to not lose. I will take base hits all day long versus winning and losing. Somewhere secure, compound your money, and then you leverage OPM, other people's money, to exponentially grow it. That's how you generate wealth.
So whether you're joining us to crush debt or build wealth, time is the most valuable asset.
and we're so grateful that you're spending your time here with us.
Got to keep going.
Good evening. Get in here. Tonight's a pretty important stream. We're still talking about the Family Bank series. If you make good money, but you still feel like you're always one surprise away from a setback, or if you've done everything right, you've saved money, you've put it in your 401k, you've paid your bills, you worked hard for decades, and you still feel behind, you're in the right place. But if you're tired of thinking about money all the time, how to make it, keep it, how to not outlive it,
Right.
then what we're about to cover is for you, my friend. So get in here. Tonight, we're talking about how easy it is to be a high income earner and still live paycheck to paycheck. Donnell, why is this so common?
So there's just a lot of confusion around cash flow. And I don't know why there's so much confusion around cash flow, because at the root of it, cash flow is the key to making this machine and making this vehicle run, right?
Right.
So it's like, and here's the piece that irritates me. Depending on the guru,
Right.
they all have their own version of what cash flow is. And when it's really not that complicated, money comes in, expenses, debts go out, what's left over, that is your cash flow. And what I've learned in this short time that I've been doing this, 10, 12 years, this short
Been a
time that
minute.
I've been doing this, I would say somewhere between $0 and $1,000 a month traditionally is the cash flow, whether you make $30,000 a year or $250,000 a year. Why? Like, that math doesn't math. But the truth is, that's traditionally where it works. The cash flow for most of the clients that I run into who are having cash flow issues, somewhere between $0 to $1,000 a month. And it doesn't matter the income.
Yeah. So what we're really dissecting tonight is the broken blueprint, just how we're kind of how we're taught to go about solving this problem and why this becomes so common. So first of all, what is the blueprint? The blueprint is you first get a good job, right? Well, you get a good education to get a good job, and then you move up as you continue to make more income to get to a point where you have a savings, right? And then focus on retirement so that you can retire happy. And I think that one word is a trigger word for a lot of people, and it's easily abandoned. So what does retirement mean? I think we are on a mission to redefine what retirement means and your association, or how we associate with this word, right? Okay, so for instance, when you think of retirement, do you think of golfing, travel? What else?
Freedom, right? The ability to go do what I want to do. I am no longer tied to this 40-hour-a-week job, and I get to go I want to play with the grandkids.
Right.
Right. I want to sleep late. I was talking with my mom earlier today, who is retired, and she goes, you know what? I think it was somewhere around noon. She goes, I haven't even put on clothes yet today. It's like, I want the ability to be able to do what I want to do when I want to do it. To me, that's what retirement is. And notice, nowhere did we mention a dollar.
Yeah. Well, I think for a lot of people, it feels like I'll sacrifice now so that I can enjoy my golden years, enjoy life later. If you're like me, you're thinking, why would I do that? We're not promised tomorrow. And why wouldn't I enjoy today? right? So it's very easy to then just dismiss, I'm not going to sacrifice my time making memories. What else are people doing? They're making, they're taking the time to travel now, right? Well, and then you see the pictures of people when they're retired and they're older and they're like asleep in the gondola because they can't even enjoy the freedom that they have at that point. And this gets ingrained in our heads and we think to ourselves that that's what it means. So we might as well enjoy it now. But for the majority of people, they're not. This isn't what it looks like. This is for a small sliver of people. Matter of fact, this lifestyle was only promised to an entire generation that is currently in it right now and realizing somebody failed on their promise to them too. The stakes are pretty high if you are dismissing this information. And so that's why it's really important to repair your association with this word, okay? One is just because we're not talking about freedom in your golden years. We are not necessarily talking about this lifestyle where you're waking up and you don't even have to get dressed. That's not the point.
Right.
You don't get to do that if you're not financially stable.
Right. Because you may be going, hey, I'm 70 plus years of age, and now I need to get up and go deliver pizzas for the next 6 hours to bridge the gap between what this end of the week's bills are going to look like.
Man, and as light as this conversation could be, we could make it that, right? This is the dark side of not preparing. And this is why we double down on this topic, because if you haven't seen that viral video, you should. This is becoming more common where the people in their golden years are not enjoying that time. They are struggling to find ways to make ends meet. And so that's why if you are thinking or associating retirement with lifestyle, joy, ask yourself if you already have a number in place and an exit strategy to be able to achieve that lifestyle, because if not, this is the stream for you. Okay. Some fun facts.
Okay.
So not so fun. I don't know if you guys can hear our sound effects. We were playing around with it earlier and we were like, man, I don't think they can hear them out there. 61% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. We went over this last week, but we needed to set in. That is the majority of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and that includes high earners. Is that you? We're going to talk about why that includes high earners, but out of the high earners, there is a pretty significant percentage of people who are still financially trapped.
Right. And you can tell by the other statistic that goes along with that is the high earners are part of that 60%. If we are in this corporate space, what is that number one tool it's been ingrained in us that we need to use to be able to get to that next level of retirement? It is the 401k, right? It is the pension. It is whatever that corporate structure is going to provide to us. So of that workforce, and if 60% are living paycheck to paycheck, how many of them are actually contributing to a company's retirement account? And that number is even worse. What is it, 14%?
14%.
14% of Americans are maxing out their 401k. Now, I'm not saying that the 401k is the best tool. I believe the 401k is an and asset, meaning in addition to the other vehicles that you're using to be able to put yourself in a position to be able to retire, the 401k is just one of them. But if you're not even taking advantage of that, you're even further behind. So not only are you paycheck to paycheck, you're not contributing to your company's retirement account. It's a recipe for, will I ever have a chance to stop working?
Yeah. And where's your leverage?
Right.
So it's 44%, by the way. 44% of high earners are still financially trapped. So it's really not an issue of making more income, because the decisions that we make with that income really predict what our outcome will be. Even more important. So tonight we're going to talk about the cash flow lies that we were sold, and we're going to talk about the freedom that it's costing you. You ready to get into it?
Of course I am. Let's do it.
All right. Well, hold on 1 second. Look, I sound so confident, don't I? I sound.
You don't think I'll get there?
I sound super confident. Why don't I have this button ready? Hold on one second. Okay, here we go. Okay, well, you know the deal. If you're here watching us live, Donnell has to race the transition to the vibe board.
See if I'll
So
make it.
wish him luck. All right, here we go.
The goal should be, where can I achieve exponential growth? Exponential growth.
Let's just get into it. Let's just get
All right. Everyone seeing the vibe board and all that kind of stuff? I'm not seeing it on my end, just so you're aware. Perfect. All right. So cash flow lies that we were sold. And I think it all goes back to, again, what's the point? What's the purpose? What's the goal? The goal is, hopefully you are leveraging the income that you're making with your 40-hour-week employer to be able to put yourself in a position so that you don't have to worry about what the future holds. Well, how do we get there? Well, the only way we can get there is by putting that certain dollar amount away in those company sponsored vehicles, but in addition, using our cash flow to putting that cash flow to work. But there's a fair amount of confusion around not just cash flow, but also how cash flow is leveraged and used. So what is it and how do we put it to work? And so if you think cash flow is just about what you make, well, I think you're in for a rude awakening, because it has a lot more to do with not just what you make, but how much you can keep. And so we're going to jump into that. And, if you are focused on anything other than making sure that cash flow is working for you, you're setting yourself up for quite a rude awakening, if not a disaster. And I think that is the piece that that is the root of why so many Americans find themselves going back to the workforce. It's the running out of money part. So when you had the compound cycles available to you, what should you have been doing with that cash flow to make sure that in those latter years, you're not putting yourself in a position so that you're dependent upon who's president or what interest rates are or where inflation is. Use this time while you have it to be able to put that money to work. So what we wanted to dig into is a lot of the myths that we tend to run into as it relates to cash flow and what it's used and how and there's a lot of these. I think there's about 10 that we're going to run through. But one of the biggest is, just because you have high income, that doesn't mean your cash flow is healthy. And as I mentioned, when I'm working with individuals who have a cash flow challenge, usually, yeah, they may make $300,000, $250,000 in income, but their lifestyle also matches it. Versus, I've had many 30-year-olds, 28-year-olds who are only making $30,000 a year, and their cash flow is the same as some of those individuals that are making $250,000 a year. Why is that? So making sure that you realize that just because you have great income doesn't necessarily mean your cash flow is in its right position. And what is the damage that something like that can cause? Meaning, what is the damage that, assuming because I make more, I'm in a better position, that damage could be lifestyle inflation, meaning lifestyle creep, meaning you're buying more stuff and things to match the income that you're making, and therefore the difference between what it is you're making and what's left over, there's a deficiency there. Understanding debt. And understanding how, not just debt in general, but how debt is actually used and what debt is used for. Because what we know is those who consider themselves wealthy understand debt is just about leverage. And there is a strategic type of debt, meaning not all debt is the same. But what are we told by the gurus, specifically the Susie Ormans, maybe even the Dave Ramseys? It's, you don't want the debt. Why? Because debt can destroy your cash flow, and that is incorrect. It's what is the type of debt you're using and how you use it. So is it strategic? And it's not only the debt that you have, but also how that debt is being used at the moment. And are you leveraging that debt to generate compound interest? Are you leveraging that debt to put that money to work? Why? Because if you're using debt properly, if you're using debt in the way that it should be, meaning creating spreads or putting money to work or driving income through a debt tool and then taking the room being created on that debt tool and putting that money to work, what you're doing is you're creating compound interest. You're putting your money in a position to where it can go work for you. And so ultimately, you not only have your 40-hour-week job, but you also have a vehicle that is working alongside you. Again, another asset that you're putting to work to be able to generate and build income as well. A lot of people think all you got to do is budget. And in a lot of cases, budgeting is just not enough. It's not enough to just say, hey, I am structuring things so that I have some guardrails around what it is I'm spending. Budgeting is just about tracking the expenses or the income and the expenses going out. That tracking of what's happening, you need to be able to see what's going on, but just tracking alone will not generate and or build wealth for you. So being dependent upon living within the means of the income that you have can end up creating frustration for later, because what ends up happening is just because you're making more doesn't necessarily solve the problem if the income that you're generating and the cash flow that is a result of that income is not being placed in a position to work for you. Savings versus cash flow. I run into this more often than I thought I would. And that is when we're talking about velocity banking specifically. Velocity banking is a strategy that focuses on using your income to generate more cash flow by paying off debt efficiently. And a lot of people think because their income is high and they're taking a portion of that income and sitting it in savings, if money is not moving, money is dead. If money is not moving, your money is waiting to do something else. And what ends up happening is inflation either comes behind and eats it up, or your money is just not working for you. So the idea is understanding that savings and cash flow are two separate things, and you can have both. You can have a cash flow generating tool that also serves as your savings vehicle, meaning for those emergencies. So more savings. So the myth is more savings means better cash flow. It's not necessarily true. Savings is absolutely a static, I'll call it state of your dollar, whereas cash flow is about the velocity of money moving. Cash flow is about your allowing your income to not just address debt, but it's also creating enough momentum for you to be able to generate other things as well. And if, again, I kind of already mentioned it, if money is sitting idle, your money is dying ultimately. And so the idea behind this is putting your money to work so that you can generate that compound interest to be able to significantly address the things that you're looking for or things that you're wanting to achieve as it relates to retirement or income in general. And then assets without income. Because I'm heavy in the retirement space as well as the real estate entrepreneurial space, I run into this a lot. I have a lot of clients who are asset heavy, but cash flow poor. And when I ask, because the first question is, what's the goal? And then when we dig into what's the goal, we peel the layers back to understand what are your numbers. And income tends to be fairly high, but when you add up all of the debts associated with the assets in play, we end up learning that income is quite low. So assets without income is actually hurting you. So just because you own assets doesn't necessarily mean your cash flow is efficient. And the reality is only true cash flow producing assets actually generate cash flow, meaning if you have a rental property, and the renters in that rental property are just simply replacing the mortgage. Well, what about mortgage insurance? What about insurance on the property in general? What about all of the other expenses associated with having that rental property? Where does the payment for those come from? They tend to come from the person owning the property. And so just because the renter is paying the mortgage doesn't necessarily mean that property is now cash flowing for you and producing a positive return. So, and again, the false security is while you may be asset rich, you're sitting in a position where you are ultimately cash flow poor. Hit on that. And this is one of my favorites. This is one that I've been having a lot more dialogue as long as we've been talking about velocity banking and using first and second position home equity lines of credit to be able to either pay down mortgage, pay down debt, or put yourself in a more positive cash flow position. I still run into a lot of people think that paying off your mortgage early actually improves your cash flow. So let's think about it. There are situations where if I no longer have this mortgage payment, that mortgage payment that I was paying is now sitting in my checking account, which means theoretically, or not theoretically, mathematically, my cash flow has increased. But did that put Did the payoff of my home, or the amount of time it took to pay off my mortgage, what was the impact that it ultimately had on my inability to be able to generate more cash flow? So just paying off the mortgage may increase your cash flow from the perspective of, I no longer have the mortgage payment. But if we're talking about cash flow being placed in a position so that you can generate more income to put you in a position for retirement, let's do the math on, if it takes me 15 years to pay off my mortgage, that's 15 years that additional dollar that I was using to pay off my mortgage was not compounding for me. So me paying off my mortgage got rid of a debt, but did paying off that mortgage put me in a better position to where I now have a vehicle that I can leverage and use to do anything else with. And so it's understanding just paying off the mortgage, while great and how great and wonderful it is, it doesn't necessarily improve your cash flow. And in truth, it also reduces the amount of liquidity in your cash reserves in general. So what should you do? So if paying off your mortgage negatively impact how your cash flow work, what are your options? It's the idea behind money should always continuously be moving. Your money should always be working for you. So rather than, a matter of fact, about 2 weeks ago, I had a gentleman reach out to me because he was thinking of going from a 30-year mortgage to a 15-year mortgage, again, to pay off his mortgage early. Well, conceptually, if we go from a 30-year mortgage that is at let's say a mortgage payment of $2,000 a month, and we go to a 15-year mortgage, ideally what ends up happening is the mortgage payment is higher, but you do end up paying off the mortgage faster, 15 years versus 30. Well, if the original mortgage payment on a 30-year mortgage is $2,000, and the mortgage payment on the 15-year mortgage is, let's call it $2,500 or $2,800, that additional $800 a month is what's going towards paying off that mortgage faster. Okay, I get it. What if you could simply take that same $800, keep the 30-year mortgage, but take that same $800 and put it in a different vehicle? Put it in a vehicle that not only is building and generating either cash value or leverage for you, it can be designed to produce income as well. Meaning, is there an opportunity to take that $800 difference and get it working for you such that not only can it pay off the mortgage if you needed it to 15 years from now, but it also is putting you in a position where it can also generate income. Like, what does that look like? So don't get caught up in being so focused on paying off the mortgage that you're missing an opportunity to generate cash value or cash flow elsewhere. And this is an interesting one as well. Retirement age fixes cash flow. I have several, I'll call it friends who are pretty close to retirement age, and they have this misconception that their pension, because they have the manufacturing job that still offers pension or the government related position that is still offering a pension, there's a misconception that pension will solve cash flow issues. And when I ask simple questions around, do you know the amount of income generated from your pension? Most people assume that their pension replaces their income. And that is not 100% correct. Some may do 75% of your salary based off when you retire. Like, that's awesome. But most are still functioning under the 4% rule. And what that ultimately means is, based off the size of your nest egg, the max that you can take in income in retirement is 4% of whatever that nest egg is. And so understanding how your current 40-hour-week employer structures their retirement income for the vehicle that's being used, whether it's a 403B, 401k, TSP, you name it, understanding what that process looks like when it comes time to be able to generate income, you want to know that sooner rather than later. You want to know that in your 30s, 40s, early 50s, not when you're approaching that period when it's time for you to need those dollars. Because you may end up with a rude awakening that says, hey, based off how retirement is structured inside of your company's retirement account, you learn then that it's not enough. So that date that you thought you had as it relates to when you would no longer be working for that company may get pushed. You may end up working there a little bit longer because the dollar amount you anticipated receiving in income is a little bit different. And again, what it does is it causes an impact of cash flow in those latter years because you miss the opportunity to be able to adjust or shift or create an and asset to go along with what it is, this vehicle that your company has allowed for you to be able to take an income. Cash flow is just expense reduction, when it's actually a little bit more complicated than that. Meaning, when we do the equation around cash flow, and we'll get to that a little bit later as well, when it's income minus your expenses minus the minimum on your debts, what's left over is your cash flow. But it's actually a little bit bigger than that, because if your cash flow is just sitting in your checking account, is your cash flow really doing anything for you? Yes, you've addressed your debts. Yes, your checking account is growing because your cash flow is sitting in it. But again, if cash flow is sitting, the idea behind velocity banking is money continuously moving. So if your cash flow is sitting, what is the impact on your ability to be able to generate wealth from your money sitting in a checking account, from your money sitting in a savings account, from your money sitting in a high yield savings account? So it's understanding what is the damage being impacted, and it perpetuates that scarcity mindset. Meaning, this cash flow that I have is enough for me to be able to get through the next moment, versus putting that money to work, treating it like an employee, and having to go either generate more cash flow or recruit more employees for you so that you can generate more income and achieve abundance. I haven't run across this often, but I want to say last year around this time, I had a lot of people who assumed that cash flow was really only something associated with having a business. And we use real estate a lot. It's cash flow is really something that is more designed for those who have rental property. So is this property generating enough cash flow, enough passive income for me to be able to be used? So cash flow only applying to businesses, not realizing your household is a business. And if you have any young adults in your household with you, do they realize that they are part of that business? And they are part of how cash flow flows through and in and out of that business, and the impact that everyone working together focus on the same goal and how that matters. And that hidden damage is it creates it creates, I'll call it complacency around, hey, someone else will handle it. It's not my problem. I don't have to worry about the impact that my behavior and my choices and my decisions have on the household business in total. So I think clearing up and understanding how cash flow matters not just for businesses, but also understanding the impact that it has on your home, which is its own business, is crucial to understanding whether or not there's enough available in the future for you to be able to do whatever you want. And again, this is about a family bank. It starts with you first. It's going to be quite difficult for you to contribute to the machine that ultimately is going to translate into what that family bank looks like if you personally are not in the position to, or haven't done your due diligence around making sure that cash flow is succinct and working for you as well. And this, go ahead. Yeah. There we go. How about that?
Yeah, that's good.
So this is something that was actually new for me this week. This was the first time that I kind of ran across this situation, and that is the cash flow calculation being a one-time occurrence. Meaning using the calculation of what your cash flow is to understand what the current state is, and somehow that not being a tool that now has to be used to grow and build. So it's not just my point is, it's not just a one-time calculation. Cash flow is dynamic. Again, it's about velocity banking, the velocity of money continuing to move. So it's about your cash flow continuing to grow and build so that you can put your money, put your household, put your business, put yourself in a position so that you can conquer more. And the hidden damage is it leads to, as I mentioned earlier, complacency and the inability to guard against what's coming in the future. So The idea behind cash flow is if you do it correctly and if you're paying attention to what's coming in and what's going out, you're able to put your money in a position to where, regardless of who's president, regardless of where inflation is or isn't, you have placed your money in a position to where it's protected against those things. And ultimately, what we want to do from here is understand these are the myths, but what do we do about it? What is that structure that has to be in place to guard against all of these items? And it kind of first hinges upon one of the things that I notice also is it's this paradox around all I need to do is make more money. The more money I make, the less problems I have because I now have the cash flow to be able to address. But what we find is as the income starts to increase, the debt starts to creep as well. So yeah, I'm a high income earner with 6 figures in salary. And now I'm relieving that stress of I no longer have the means to be able to pay for my lifestyle or pay for that stuff and things. Well, okay, as income increases, what ends up happening is debt starts to creep. I buy that watch, I buy that house, I fix those countertops, the stuff and the things start to meet and match the income that I'm making, which means the savings that I thought I had based off having higher income translates to I have less savings, which then turns into more anxiety, which means now I have to go generate and create more income. And as I create more income, my lifestyle starts to creep and it becomes this cycle to where it's like the dog chasing its tail. And that's where I go back to, I run into a lot of individuals who, whether you're 30 or 50, that cash flow being somewhere around $0 to $1,000 a month. So on average, we're talking $500 a month. So whether you make $30,000 a year or $250,000 a year, the lifestyle ends up matching what it is you're producing as it relates to income. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just really quick. I got to talk about the countertops.
Let's do it.
Because,
so I threw it out
golly, if you can't feel like you can reward yourself for having success, then what is the point, right? I think a lot of people feel that way. Raise your hand if you feel that way. That's me. I feel that way. I feel like if we don't have something to show for it, and that's really what kind of motivates us sometimes to do more, to do better. That was a huge mindset shift for me. But I can tell you that even though I've had the aha moment, it is really hard because I just want a rubber band right back to, well, maybe we could just, maybe I just keep looking at it and it's driving me crazy. I just want to fix the stairs or the countertops or the whatever the things are, right? Because it feels like, haven't we worked enough? Haven't we worked hard enough to be able to deserve this?
This is where the like the YOLO comes into play, right?
Yeah, right.
Like, shouldn't I be able to enjoy this income that I have?
Just a little bit.
And I think it's balance. I think I was sharing this with my oldest. My first 6-figure income hit at age 27. And when I do the math on just go 27 to 37. So from age 27, I'm making 6 figures and I haven't stopped making 6 figures since. So from age 27 to 37, that's $1 million. What happened with my lifestyle during that period? My lifestyle met that income that I was making. If I would have known this earlier, I could have again, balance. I could have still bought that watch, maybe taken that trip, but did my lifestyle have to match that income? Not necessarily. And it's just understanding, having that balance to say, you know what? What's the goal here? The goal is I want to be able to fire my job. The goal is I want to put my money in a position to where it can work for me. The goal is I want to generate wealth. The goal is I want to retire early. I don't want to wait till I'm 65 before I can start enjoying myself. So in order to do that, at age 27, I have these compound cycles in front of me. Am I efficiently using these compound cycles so that I'm not impacted by any of this stuff 20 years from now?
Yeah, I love what Rob said. Like, I'm loving my 1972 wallpaper. We are loving our 1992 countertops just simply because now that I see what your cash flow can do, now that I see what money does inside of your machine, right? This was a big aha moment for me. I realized that when we got the bids, right? It was like $20,000 to replace the countertops or something like that. That was like the average. And I thought, it will die on these countertops. That money, that is where it will rest until it is laid to rest in some landfill when somebody else decides that the 2025 countertops are like so vintage, so old, they need to be redone, right? So when I realized it was actually costing me like $100K, $200K maybe, compounding, right?
That's fair. That's fair.
I went, would I pay that for these countertops today? Absolutely not. And I have to actively remind myself of that with like every little decision even, right? Is it worth it? And it's not that I don't believe that we shouldn't have, because that's not the case. I don't think that you should be completely starved of
rice and beans.
Yeah, I don't think that you should be completely starved of like rewarding yourself for the work. It's how we reward ourselves, because knowing that isn't financial stability a reward too? Come on now.
What would you rather have? Marble countertops or fire your job in 10 years?
Well, we should do a poll, because I think the way that some people, not you, because you're here watching us, you're here in our live stream. That is not you. We know that. You already know that your cash flow is your leverage. But if you know somebody, okay, friend, perhaps asking for a friend, and you wanted to ask that question, do their decisions match that? What's the goal?
And I think that's the part. What's the goal?
Yeah.
Being very clear as to what is the objective, because maybe the goal is, I love my job. I want to be here 35 plus years or whatever that time frame might be. Like that.
Do you though?
I mean, there are some who, this is my purpose. This position that I have with this company and what it is I do I love my job. That is okay. So it's that balance piece. And what's the goal? What is the objective you're trying to hit?
I think you can love your job and love what it is that you do and still be okay with being financially stable, because that's where a lot of people, that's also like a ditch people fall into. They're like, well, I love what I do. I would never want to stop, because if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. Not true. Okay. You're working every day. That's the point. And if you own your own business, then you traded a opportunity for a 9-to-5 for a 24/7.
Didn't we though?
Join us. Join us. The idea here though is, when you're talking about the family being a mini business, and it's the decisions that are made within as well. Because if we're doing nothing else, we are teaching our kids, we are teaching our family members, our nieces, our nephews, whoever it is. You don't even have to have kids. You're teaching the children, the youth of your community,
right,
how to have a relationship with money just by your decisions alone. How you doing? What kind of grade? What kind of grade we got out there, fam?
How would you grade yourself?
Yeah, how would you grade yourself? What's in your wallet? Okay, well, we've got a lot of comments coming in, and I just want to say I really appreciate all of you in the chat, because it helps us to understand, like, is this stuff hitting? Are you having these conversations at home yet? Is this pillow talk at this point?
Right, because there's a bigger picture here, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about the pillars, the 7 pillars associated with building wealth. The first one being cash flow.
Yeah.
And we're spending far more time than I think we've ever spent on breaking down cash flow. And hopefully to some of you, it's even repetitive. But this is the part. It's so much bigger than what's coming in and what's going out. It's what are you doing about it? And if we don't pay attention to how your money is working for you, we can get ourselves in trouble. And that's where these are and conversations. So to your point about the individual who loves their job, right?
I love what I do.
Trading your time for money, Like time is the largest asset we have.
Right.
So it's okay if this is one of the vehicles you're using to generate cash flow. My time is but what about putting your cash flow to work so it can also be an and asset such that there's going to come a point where none of us will be in a position to where we can trade our time for money anymore.
That part.
And so it's why not take a portion of that cash flow and put it to work alongside you while you're trading your time for money, such that when that time comes, there's nothing, it doesn't matter what your company's pension is or isn't, or what that 4% rule does or doesn't, where inflation is or is not, who's president, whether Doge took a job. None of that matters, because you've got this asset riding alongside you that will take care of and compensate for whatever that deficiency might be. And God forbid something happens to you, there may be even a legacy component to it, such that the next generations don't have to worry about.
Well, and that's the part that in the beginning we were talking about, redefining and just realigning your relationship with the word retirement.
Right.
Because for a lot of people, these are the vehicles that qualify for retirement. So what does that mean? When does that apply? That marker, that carrot is always moving, right, on that stick. But if we redefine what that means, we are no longer talking about golfing or just not having to work, right? We are talking about the stability that you have in the event that you cannot work, or at some point you can't.
Right.
It could be family too. I mean, there's a lot of people who have to take care of a family member, and therefore they can no longer have the lifestyle that they needed for that career. There's a lot of different reasons, but we have to change the relationship that we have with this word. That's the whole point. And so how we do it is in these decisions, but it is all embedded in this one particular topic. If you don't get this right, you really don't have a chance, because you won't have the time to catch up. Okay, so back at it.
I think you bring up just a beautiful point. So if I just might add to that, the strength of a structure is only as strong as the foundation that it's built on. And so when we talk about cash flow is that foundation. Everything else goes up from here. Everything else stands on that base. And God forbid, if you were never in a position to where you could no longer trade your time for money, if you were feeding the foundation of that structure with your time, what happens when that time is no longer available? What happens to that structure that you've built on?
Yeah, well, and that's those are the pillars that we're talking about in this Family Bank series. So if you're new here, welcome. We're covering how to build a family bank, specifically how we built our family bank.
Right.
And if you don't know our story, this is how we started with paying our home off in 4 years. We supercharged our leverage and turned our family and our system into like a machine. People use the term become your own bank. And essentially, that's what we did. But we like to call it a self-sustaining machine, which I think is a better term, because banks depend on people and ours does not. So it's even better. Yeah. What are we going to call it, friends? We need a new name. We're no longer a bank. We're a machine. We'll keep it with that. Run with that. All right. You ready to get back into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, here we go.
So again, my only point here is income, while it's a win, income and adding that mounting debt, meaning allowing for the lifestyle creep, reduces that savings, which adds to that stress, which causes this problem to just continue to repeat itself. And as it relates to the calculation around how cash flow is generated and or created, most of the time that I see, or most of the people that I run into, it's really around just using the wrong math, meaning how do you truly measure cash flow? What does that look like? What are the metrics you're using? And are the metrics that you're using the right ones? And ultimately, if you don't know how cash flow is being generated, or how what that cash flow looks like inside of your machine, you're only one emergency or one incident away from that machine collapsing. Hence, the 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. I kind of used this example last week. Imagine you trading your time for money. Bills are being paid. You're doing just fine. Yeah, you're living paycheck to paycheck, but bills are being addressed. And unbeknownst to you, there's some incident that occurs on the highway driving home, and you find yourself in an accident. That one emergency, that one ambulance trip could be impactful enough to send all of this into a spiral. So how do you guard against? How do you put the right block wall around your income such that instances like that can't all of a sudden take you out? And so when we talk about income versus cash flow, income is what you make. Income is what you earn. It's your salary before expenses, before you're removing debts, before taxes even in that case. Income, we can talk gross if you want to talk gross. That's fine. Your income is what you make. But your cash flow is what you're able to keep. Your cash flow is after you've paid those expenses, after debt has come out, meaning, and after that after-tax dollar amount that actually hits your checking account, or what that paper check looks like when you receive it from your employer. It's what's left over after all of that. So when we're talking income versus cash flow, it's what you've earned, what you're earning versus what's left over, what you're keeping. And I have struggled with this metaphor, but I actually have grown to really appreciate what this is saying, because when I shared this with my kids as it relates to this metaphor and what it means, this is a faucet. For those of you who might be on your phone, this is a faucet, water coming through the faucet. There's a cup and there's holes in the cup. So in most cases, I think the assumption is in a lot of cases, the water is the income. And that's not true. The income is actually the faucet itself. And it's the faucet because the faucet can be adjusted, right? That income can go up, that income can go down. That income can increase, that income can decrease. So the income is actually the faucet. And it's the cup is that tool, that vehicle is, what is that income going into? Is it a savings account? Is it a first position home equity line of credit? Are you using Velocity Banking and you're driving that income through a credit card? Like what is that income going through? And when bills are paid, what's left over in the cup? What is sitting in this cup once all expenses and the minimums on debts are paid? Because what's sitting in that cup after that, that is your cash flow. What's left over is what you will be in a position to be able to put to work. What's left over is what you're going to use to take that trip or replace those countertops or pay off that loan for that vehicle that you purchased when you got that promotion. It's that cash flow that's going to allow you to either sustain your lifestyle or you're going to put it in a position to where you can generate and build more. And I think the only piece missing from this diagram, and this is where my wife is such a better artist than me, because to me, it's about not just plugging up this hole, but what are you doing with it? Where's the results of this going? And what is that vehicle? What is that machine that the results of what's left in that cup is going to? Meaning, how are you putting your cash flow to work? How are you putting your cash flow in a position to where it can generate more? Because it's this machine that, if done correctly, will allow you to replenish and put that cash flow to work such that it doesn't matter whether the job is here today and gone tomorrow, or there was some expense, there was, again, that accident that happened on the highway. It's this machine that will allow you to then be able to, I'll call it, account for any emergency that might occur, because you have this machine that can then replace that. Or if there's an emergent expense that needs to be taken, it can come from this machine and then you replenish what's in the machine versus it now sent you in a spiral. So ultimately, the water metaphor being income is the faucet, your expenses are the leaky cup, and your cash flow is what's actually left over once it's all said and done. All right. 3 silent killers as it relates to that cash flow, though. It's that gross income illusion. And this is something that I actually see with a lot of my younger clients, those who are just now entering the workforce. And it's thinking that the gross income, that $18 an hour, that $25 an hour that this employer is now paying you, and you multiplying that $25 an hour times 40 hours a week times, 52 weeks or 51 weeks, whatever it is you're using, that is your income. No, let's not forget about taxes. Let's not forget about what happens after. And the gross income illusion, you thinking that somehow is your cash flow or has some impact on what your cash flow is. No, once you remove the taxes, what's left over, that is your income. And then now we have to make sure that we are accounting for the expenses and debts effectively. And one of the other misses that I've seen as it relates to velocity banking is double counting payments. Double counting payments, meaning what you're calling an expense, are you only accounting for it as an expense, or are you counting it as a debt as well? When people are filling out the velocity banking worksheet that we offer, and by the way, that's at selfdirected.info/live. For those who take advantage of the velocity banking worksheet, one of the consistent themes I've seen is when they're filling out the assets column and putting in their mortgage payment, and then they're filling out the debts column, and that mortgage payment creeps over into that debts page, we end up double counting. We're counting the mortgage payment twice, which means you're actually showing yourself being in a negative cash flow position when you shouldn't. And then the last one is ignoring non-monthly costs. You may have effectively calculated your cash flow, meaning income minus expenses minus debts equal what's left over, but you're not necessarily accounting for the fact that we eat out every night. And as a result, that eating out every night isn't it isn't a part of the entertainment expense. It's an actual monthly expense that we need to account for, because that expense is impacting our ability to be able to put our cash flow to work because it's not there. So it's making sure we're not ignoring those non-monthly costs and not using them as actual expenses or accounting for them as actual expenses when we are calculating what that cash flow looks like. And just to restate, what is that cash flow? So here's an opportunity for you. Quick exercise for you as it relates to understanding what your cash flow is. What is that income coming in? And what are those expenses? And when I say expenses, I'm talking monthly, quarterly, annual expenses. And when I say expenses, I mean those expenses that won't change regardless of what happens, like the electric bill. You will always have an electric bill. Now, it may fluctuate. It may go up and down. It may be more in the summer and less in the winter, or vice versa, depending on the state that you're in. But the bottom line is that bill is not going anywhere. So it's those standard expenses that aren't going anywhere. And then the debts. The debts are those things that as you pay them, you will actually eliminate the need for that debt over time. So it's that credit card bill that may have a balance of $500, but once you pay off that, pay that balance off, that minimum amount that you were paying comes back to you as cash flow. So I like to keep these two separate, mainly because it's that elimination or the reduction in debts is what's going to allow you to identify, or is going to allow your cash flow to continue to increase. So it's your income minus expenses minus your debts, and what's left over is your cash flow. What's left over after you have deducted your expenses and the minimums on your debts, that's what's left over in your cup for you to be able to go put to work. And again, for those who haven't and would like to identify what their cash flow is, you can go to selfdirected.info/live, grab our velocity banking worksheet so that you can identify what your cash flow is for yourself. And usually when I meet with people as it relates to velocity banking specifically, this is the velocity banking worksheet is not a requirement. It's a tool. It's a tool for you to identify what your cash flow is, because the conversation that I want to have with you is, what are you doing? Then what? It's after you've identified what your cash flow is, what is it doing for you? How is it working for you? What position are you putting your cash flow in so they can generate more? Because it's about generating compound interest. It's about your money making money, and the money that your money makes continuing to make money. So the purpose for understanding your cash flow, again, it's the foundation as it relates to those 7 pillars for generating wealth, cash flow, understanding your cash flow and having solid cash flow is the foundation for you to be able to create that family bank or generate wealth over time. But we cannot ignore the invisible threat. And this picture, there was about 3 different pictures that I had available to me to identify what that invisible threat is. And you guys know this especially if you've been on this channel for a while, you know that invisible threat because my wife loves to talk about it. And that is inflation. It's even though you're identifying what your cash flow is, if you're not placing that money in a position to be able to go make more money for you, if your cash flow is sitting in your checking account, you might actually be depleting your cash flow over time by just allowing it to sit there. Meaning, what a dollar was worth in just 2020. What this is a diagram of is its income of $100,000. This is an income of $100,000 at 2020. The buying power of $100,000 at 2020 looked like this. But just in 4 years, that same buying power for that same $100,000 is somewhere around 72,000. So meaning 100K in 2020 looks more like 72K in 2024. This is what inflation is doing to your dollar. So unless you are putting the supplemental income that you have inside of this 100,000, unless you are putting that money to work in 2020 to overcome the impact that inflation is going to have on your dollar, you're putting yourself in a position to where, again, will you ever be able to stop working because things are not getting cheaper, they're only getting more expensive. And this is prior to the tariffs. So what does your $100,000 look like today? So again, this is one of those things where while we have the time available, while we have the compound cycles in front of us, are we putting our money in a position to where it can work for us? And again, cash flow is the foundation for generating and accumulating wealth. And we've been talking about this, but I just want to make sure we spent a little time on it in detail as it relates to lifestyle creep. Just because you got that, like, congratulations, you got that $20,000 raise. Like, we should all be excited about adding additional $20,000 to our income. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But did that $20,000 raise transition into, now here's an opportunity for me to go get those brand new countertops when the countertops we have are still countertopping? Or is it time to transition from the condo that we were in into that bigger home or that nicer car, ultimately resulting in more spending? It's that lifestyle creep that our cash flow looked like $500 a month prior to the raise. And somehow 6 months from now, I'm making $20,000 more, but my cash flow is still my cash flow is still $500 a month. So it's not allowing the lifestyle creep to impact your ability to hold on to your cash flow so that you can put it in a position to work for you. Because think about it. If this $20,000 was added to your income and you simply took that $20,000 and placed it into a vehicle that was generating, building wealth for you. Again, you take the $20,000, you maintain your current lifestyle, you take that $20,000 and simply put it to work for you. Couldn't you still accomplish the same goal of getting the nicer car or having the larger home once that $20,000 has been put in a position to generate more income for you? So again, I think, and you hit it on this fairly well, sweetheart, and that was, it's not about not doing these things or not taking advantage of the additional income that you're generating. It's the balance. It's putting this money to work so that you can still accomplish these goals. The time horizon around accomplishing these goals might look a little bit different, but you're putting your money in a position to where it's generating income for you, it being the key. And be careful. Be careful of the emergency erosion items. And this is where it goes back to 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. If you are one of those individuals, it's how are you putting your money, or where are you placing your dollars so that if, God forbid, there was some hospital bill that impacted your cash flow, that it doesn't wipe you out. Car repairs or mechanical failures. These are all not just I'll call it, what was it? It was the lifestyle creep. These emergencies, or these what is the word that I'm looking for? It's, I guess it's the unplanned occurrences, these situations where they weren't a part of the schedule of events that we had outlined for us. It just happened to occur. So it's putting your money in a position to where when these unexpected occurrences happen, they don't all of a sudden send you into some spiral that is going to take you 6 to 8 months to be able to climb yourself out of. And that all starts with understanding what the goal is, understanding what those inputs are going into or coming out of your income. What are those inputs coming out of your cash flow, like your expenses and the minimums on those debts, and placing that cash flow in a position to where it can actually be working for you. So to your point around us reframing or redesigning what retirement looks like. Income is no more just about, hey, I no longer work for this job, and income is no longer coming in, and whatever the result of my 40 years or 35 years with this company, that result is how I am now sustaining my lifestyle. It is making sure we're accounting for what does it look like if inflation is steadily increasing, rising medical costs, we're all living longer. So it's how are we putting our money in a position such that it doesn't erode our purchasing power over time, depending on the position that we're in when we are ready for retirement. So it's the pillars. It's making sure that if we've identified what our cash flow looks like, the next stage of that is putting that money to work and understanding where our leverage is located, so that we can compensate for what that new retirement reality looks like. And a few stats as it relates to that. We talked about 61% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck. 45% of Americans have zero saved. When I'm presenting across the country for self-directed, educating people around how to leverage and use their retirement accounts, self-directed IRAs and self-directed 401ks, one of the things I also talk about is, while I think it was 14% of Americans have a maxed out 401k, the average, I think it's the median average amount of retirement income, not just 401k income, but the median amount of retirement income is somewhere around $198,000. It's almost $200,000. As it relates to just 401k specifically, the median amount that most people retire with is 87 grand. So again, let's do some math here. You're at retirement age, whether it's a 401k or a 403b or a TSP or a government 457 plan or an IRA along with the 401k, on average, or not on average, the median nest egg size for most Americans is somewhere around $198,000. What does 198, let's call it $200,000 to round up. What does $200,000 translate to as it relates to income? And it doesn't matter your income bracket, whether you make $30,000 a year or $300,000 a year. If the median nest egg size is 198,000, what does that translate into as it relates to income? Well, based off the 4% rule, $200,000 in retirement income translates to $8,000 per year. Not $8,000 a month, $8,000 per year. Is that you? If the objective is to be able to replace your income in retirement, what do you need? What is that dollar amount required for you to be able to do so? For my high income earners out there, if you are making today $200,000, $150,000, $185,000 a year, what is that nest egg size required for you to replace that income? And here's the thing. In most cases, it's somewhere between $2 to $3.1 million. $2 to $3.1 million is what's required to be able to replace today's income and sustain your lifestyle for the next 30 years. And that's not taking into consideration that a lot of us will be living much longer than an additional 30 years. So if the guardrails are $2 to $3.1 million, where are you today? What actions are you taking to include and assets to help you get there?
That's powerful. 30 years just to think of,
Right.
you know, we had all this time, but we are watching more and more multi-generational families, you know, become the trend in living situations than we are seeing people who are prepared for that type of tenure in retirement.
And here's the thing. What do you do? And I think it's the wealth equation is you first have to pay yourself first. And it's not pay yourself first tomorrow or when we get off this live stream. It's pay yourself first today, right now. And it's not just paying yourself first today. It's your money needs to be placed in a position to where it's secure. So right now we're talking about cash flow. Cash flow is about paying yourself today. I'm sorry, paying yourself first and doing so today. But then you also have to take those dollars and make sure they're secure. The last thing I have time for as a 52-year-old is my money being lost. I am not in a position to recover. I don't care what those financialists tell you. I am not in a position to wait another 10, 15 years just to get back to where I am today. So when a market crashes, I need for my money to be protected. When a market crashes or when inflation skyrockets or when Elon Musk does or says something ignorant, I need for the money that I've made so far not to be impacted. Why? Because I don't have another 50 years to be able to compound. I am running out of compound cycles. How about you? Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say this. We're not judging you. If you're a high income earner, if you're a high income earner, it is very important to know that this is no judgment. Here's why. We get it. We live it. We live it. And we also understand that I think one of the biggest distinctions that we had was getting out of survival mode, right? That feels like winning to a lot of people, especially if you're out here doing the hard work of breaking generational cycles, poverty cycles, maybe. You could be the first one in your family. For us, that's the case, right? We have many firsts in our family that we've achieved. And it feels like success. It feels like winning until it doesn't. And that's the part is, you know, you say, I wish I had a crystal ball to just be able to look into the future. And that's essentially what we hope we could gift everybody is that vision and the foresight to be able to see that. There's no judgment here. That's not what this is. It's just saying that we have to do better starting today. Best time to plant a tree, 20 years ago.
That's it.
Next best time, today. And it doesn't matter if it's first getting your numbers together. Sometimes because you're making over 6 figures a year, you might be thinking to yourself, maybe you're making $350K. I'm fine. Fine. We don't even need to look. We don't even need to think about money. We don't, because it's just there. Like nothing is in danger if I don't look at my bank account, or if I don't look at my financial situation. And that may be true until it's not. And that's really the point, is it's not about worrying all the time,
right?
Because that's not the life I'm trying to live. And I would not ever want to make somebody else feel like they had to stay in that type of vibe every day. But the idea that you don't have to think about it, or that it's better to not think about it. I have less anxiety if I don't think about it until you do. That's facts. Okay. We have, you have some more stuff, right?
There's about 3 more. It's nothing.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Back to you, Donnell.
Well, I mean, if there's a few questions that you want me to hit, I can hit those too. It's up to you.
Well, I've been in the chat, but not,
oh, okay.
Yeah. They've got some really good comments and some good feedback, but go ahead.
So I think ultimately, so where I want to transition is, so what do we do? And so it's really about how do you create that structure so that you are positioned to be able to pivot if you need to pivot. So it's that positive cash flow piece. And what that positive cash flow piece protects from is the monthly shortfalls. It protects from that blown tire or that emergent issue that you need to be able to address. And it's building that margin. While I am not a fan of the emergency fund, because to me, your cash flow is your emergency fund, I think making the distinction of the reason you want your cash flow to be in a position to where it can continue to compound and grow is so that in case of emergencies, you have the leverage or the leverage available to you to be able to pivot and compensate. So it's merging these two is the positive cash flow and that financial margin, which ultimately creates a buffer for you if something were to happen. But then it's taking these two pieces and putting them to work. It's where is your cash flow sitting? Is it just sitting in a checking account? Is it sitting in a high yield savings account? Where is your cash flow sitting? And is it placed in a position to where not just make more money for you, meaning a savings account is making money for you, but is it sufficient enough to actually be able to outperform even inflation? So it's where are you placing that cash flow, and is it in a position to where it can generate and build compound interest? And not just, again, 0.01% or even 3 to 5%. It's, are you placing your money in a position to where this is the vehicle that I'm going to use to replace my income? And I get it, I got to give it time. I get it, it won't happen tomorrow, but it at least is in a secure vehicle that can allow me to be able to do so. And so what does that look like? Is it some type of diversified investment or savings portfolio? And for me, it's the difference between these two things. There's this, and then there's this. Anyone notice the difference between these two equations? This one is what's called the investment equation. So if you have an investment portfolio, stock, bond, mutual fund, 9 times out of 10, your investments are in this equation versus this equation. If you have a properly designed cash value life insurance product, in some cases, real estate, in some cases, your retirement plan, like an IRA or 401k that is I'll call it invested outside of the stock market, can function in this equation. This is the investment equation versus the wealth equation. And the only difference between these two vehicles is this variable here. One, this plus and minus denotes risk, meaning I can make money, I can lose money. I can make money, I can lose money. When you average this equation, hopefully you're moving in a straight line. Whereas the wealth equation, if you can put your money in a position to where there's no minus, if you can put your money in a position to where you are not impacted by risk. And again, I get it. Eliminating risk is tough. But can you reduce the risk to the point where it doesn't impact your ability to generate and build compound interest? It's the difference between these two equations that can determine whether or not you are forced to work well into your 80s or you can comfortably retire. Is your pension tied to this equation, or is your pension tied to this equation? Is your pension impacted by whether the tariffs are on or off, or is your pension tied to, it doesn't matter what tariffs are or are not doing, because I have a 0% floor that says I cannot lose the money that I've put into this equation. Which is it? And which one is best aligned with your goal? And how about this? We've only been taught to place our money here, and that's okay. But now that you know better, you do better. It's how can I transition the majority of my nest egg from a place of, I'll call it risk, and move it into a position to where it can generate wealth. That's not something that you may be able to do over time. I'm sorry, it's not something that you may be able to do immediately. It's something that may have to happen over time. But it's understanding, okay, I need to adjust my goal. I thought my job was going to be enough, but now that I know that my pension is tied to this equation, I need an and asset that can work alongside of my company's retirement account that doesn't have the same risk, so that in case something does happen, I have a vehicle that's working alongside that will allow me to be able to sustain my lifestyle well through retirement. Hard stop. That's all today is about. It's understanding where your cash flow is, because again, that's step one, so that you can understand where to put it. Ultimately, putting it in a position to where you can build and generate wealth so that you can have those pillars in place to become your own system, to become your own machine, to become your own bank. So you got a choice. It's either you maintain control or you take control, or you allow others to have that control for you. You surrender that control, meaning it's understanding, hey, I understand what my cash flow is. I understand where it's going. I am putting it in I understand I need to put it in a position to be able to work for me because I can't count on the system. I know the system does not care about me. Like, I like my financial advisor, but I understand he has very little control over what the market will or won't do. I know my options are limited inside of that investment equation. Again, it's mutual funds, stocks, bonds. It's things that are impacted by the market. I know I'm limited. I know I'm limited in my options and my ability to pivot. So how can I gain more control to be able to put my money to work for me? And ultimately, all this is saying is, how do I become, or how do I get self-directed?
Boom.
That's all this is saying. How do I become, how do I put my money into position so that I can be self-directed? That's all we're saying here. This is not complicated. And so when we talk about the foundation for building and or generating cash flow, it is related to making sure that cash flow is stable. And in order to stabilize your cash flow, you have to know your numbers. You have to know how your money is working for you. You have to make sure that your money is being placed in a position to be able to do the job that you need for it to do. And you have to protect those dollars. You have to put those dollars in a position to where they cannot be impacted and or lost, regardless of what nonsense is happening outside of those things that you can control. And then it's, where are you putting it? Are you putting your money in a position so that it can work for you? And when you add all of this up, this is how you're able to achieve freedom. And I go back to, it is absolutely this equation right here. And when we talk about stabilizing your cash flow, that is these two factors. Pay yourself first, starting today. Pay yourself right now, starting today. And when we talk about protection, that protection is this piece here. This is that protection piece.
There you go.
This is that protection piece. And again, I hate my handwriting too, so I apologize.
No, I just said move it up because they couldn't see it.
But the plus sign is where you protect your dollars. What vehicle is it in to make sure it cannot be lost? And we usually, in the past, we've talked about the risk return pyramid. The base of that pyramid is savings, bonds, treasury. I think it's life insurance based products. It's not an infinite list of items that you can comfortably secure your dollars. So where's your money sitting to make sure it's protected? And then you put that money to work. These two pieces here, this R and this X, is about creating and generating compound interest. It's putting your money in the vehicle to where it can make more money. And then that X is leveraging other people's money. It is creating a spread. It is having as little of your dollar involved in generating and creating that wealth that you want. So ultimately, again, as I mentioned, it's about stabilizing your cash flow, building protection, and then putting that dollar to work inside of an asset to ultimately achieve the freedom that you're looking for. But here's the thing. And sweetheart, we kind of hinted to this last week. Even if you fix your cash flow, even if you do everything right, there are still that silent mistake that can crush and wipe out all of these things. Even if I've tactically gotten the right vehicles. I'm leveraging my income. I'm putting that cash flow to work. I filled out the worksheets, Donnell.
Say it.
Like I know my income. I know my expenses. I know my debts. I understand my cash flow. There are still these pieces, especially as it relates to the family bank, that we have to be conscious of. We have to pay attention to. And from a societal perspective, we don't talk about this. You guys know what we're talking about? You guys know what that is?
Do you know what it is? That's what we're going to talk about next. We're going to talk about it again. You ready to get over here?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, see, all that confidence I had just now. Didn't even have the button ready. Yeah, right. Exactly. Are we kidding right now? Where are we going with this? Okay, well,
Almost.
I guess. All right, come on over.
So just remember, if you're on fire, stop, drop, and roll. One more time. Say it with me now.
Stop, drop, and roll. Do that. Do it like pro. Do that.
Okay, so this next piece, this is the thing that will completely destroy your family bank. If that's not what you want, then this right here is what to pay attention to. We talked about this last week on our stream. And if you were here, then it may have been the first time that you even heard this concept. What's it called?
Emotional credit.
But what we're talking about in terms of cash flow is almost like a relational cash flow. How do you treat, again, I love that mini business concept.
Right.
Like your home is this mini business, your family is this mini business. And how are we treating our cash flow? How are we counting our cash flow? Because to your point, there's a lot of people who have a different idea of what this means. They have a completely different number when you get the Velocity Banking worksheet, which, by the way, let's just show you how to get it. If you haven't gotten it and you have not done your numbers, just get them together right here. Just get them together. So go here. And then you're going to click on the Velocity Banking worksheets, completely free. It's just a Google sheet.
That's it.
That does stuff. That's all it is. It's free.
Free tools.
There's other people that are selling them out there. We just give it away for free. We made a better one. You're welcome. Get that and get your numbers together. For some people, this is like the first time that they're doing this, right? Okay, so first and foremost, that's important. Know your numbers. Okay, second part is how are you counting for, right? And allocating your cash flow. Relational cash flow. This is no different than attention. We were talking about this earlier. Attention, your focus,
right,
your extra time, all of those things. You know what I love? I love 2 seconds here. I think, oh, yep. It was B. Marie. Let's put her up here. She said, why are all the comments different? Why did they just do their own thing? Comments on the stream. She said, one of the best things I learned here on this channel was multiple uses of the same dollar. Is what she's talking about. Can you get multiple uses out of the same minute at home? Can you get multiple uses out of your relational cash flow at home if you are, we're not talking about multitasking.
Right.
That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about being intentional with your time, intentional with how you're building your emotional credit, relational cash, and spending your relational cash flow at home. Why this is so important. Okay, a recap for everybody. We'll take this down. And then we'll get to your questions in just a moment. Recap for everybody. Emotional credit is the credit score that you have, no different than the financial landscape. It's no different. And think about it like this. Your credit history is your integrity and the repair you do when you have damaged something, like you've missed a payment or you've somehow there's a trust that has been broken. You said you would do this, you didn't do this, maybe something happened. Did you repair it, right? Did you make good, make it whole?
And notice that current currency being used is trust.
It's trust,
right?
It's time,
right?
Attention to detail.
Exactly.
The utilization piece of your credit, right? Are you giving more than you take? Are you overutilizing inside of your family bank,
What's your emotional DTI?
your mini business that is your family. And then the balance of exchanges. Are you even paying attention to what your balances are? The deposits that you're putting in, the withdrawals that you're taking. Are you paying attention? Because it does matter. And even if it's unspoken, this is a real thing and it's in your household right now. This is the number one thing that will keep you from building a family bank. It will crush. It will dissolve from the inside. It will not stand up or hold. Not even that, what was it, 80% is gone by the second generation.
Right.
It won't even last that long because the credit system has been mistreated. So the due dates following through on your promises, meeting your expectations. So those missed payments that have impact your credit, it's no different when we do that to our family. Those who are in the boat, in the bank with us. And maybe this is just you, right? Maybe this is just you. Maybe you're not married. Maybe you don't have kids. Maybe you're just thinking about how to get your own self financially secure and stable. That's okay too, because we miss payments with ourselves all the time.
And that's the part, like emotional credit and making sure we have the right emotional credit available or whatever, that making sure our credit score is the highest so that we can take advantage of opportunities when they come about. It all starts here.
Right.
Because that's where scarcity comes from.
Right.
I don't have the emotional credit. I haven't done the work to build the emotional credit internally. And so therefore I almost feel as though I'm not worthy enough to be able to have the abundance that we are all put here for.
Yeah. And I think that really is at the root of where a lot of people struggle to plan for the future,
Right.
because they're saying my future self is going to be worth more than my current self. Man, if you're new here, how about that?
Yeah.
If you're new here, then you know that there are a few solid books that we have that have transformed our lives, our family, as a matter of fact. One of those is How to Be Your Biggest Fan. Hands down, was one of the dopest books that we read as a family. And what this did for us, it wasn't just about building self-esteem or confidence or those types of things. The first thing it did essentially was say, know your numbers.
Right.
Right.
That's exactly what it said. Take inventory.
Take inventory of the withdrawals that you have around you all day and the deposits in your life. And are you trying to put in more deposits to make up for the leaky cup, right?
That's it.
The leaky bucket, because your relational cash flow, there's a leak in there. And so you're trying to find more income, relational income, to put in that cup or in that bucket. We do this with our self-esteem and our value. So it happens in our finances. We're talking about this because we know they are tied together. They're a package deal. You're a package deal. No, you're a package deal. And
You're a snack.
Okay, back to you guys.
My bad.
The point is we can't leave this part out. Sometimes I think, like they were saying in there, Donnell's second language is arithmetic. Look, Donnell always got to show off his math skills. They're in here. They got you tonight. So funny. What they're saying though is sometimes people can be uncomfortable with numbers and more comfortable talking about feelings. And sometimes it is the complete opposite, right?
I'm that guy.
The complete opposite. And I think opposites sometimes attract, and all of that's fine. But it doesn't mean that they can be separate just because, like, these are my strengths and these are my weaknesses. They're a package deal. What we have realized is this goes far deeper than just this theory or just this concept. We've started talking about this inside of our own family just to be able to peel the layers back to expose, like, maybe that's not a big deal, but maybe it is. Maybe those small little withdrawals over time, they add up. And where are we seeing that? So that we can make sure to be more mindful of even those little decisions, the things that we kind of pass off. They over time, no different than $500 a month, and how that can turn into $1 million over time, right? It doesn't seem like it at first. But the relationship that we have with that outcome in the future is what we now have to talk about. And that's the emotional credit that we establish today, and when we are going to have to leverage it at some point with ourselves or with somebody else.
Right. And we say family, but I want to make sure we define, because we did this last week, but for those of you
That's
who
right.
weren't with us,
Yeah.
when we say family, I'm not talking about your mom, your dad, your kid. No, I'm talking about your circle of trust. Your circle of trust may not include your biological parents or your siblings. Your circle of trust may be your fraternity brothers and sisters, or your circle of trust might be the people that you were on the front lines with in the military. So it's who's that circle of trust? Because here's what we know. Times have changed. It is not 1999. The dollar isn't worth what it was. And so if we are going to get to this place of wealth, it may require support. It may require support from our family, from that circle of trust, such that we can build that family bank, so that we don't have to rely on Bank of America or my credit score, my individual credit score, or can I qualify? No, we need none of that, because we have this circle of trust, and we've created this family bank that we are now able to leverage to be able to accomplish those things without the need of some outside institution. So it's making sure that, so when we say family, we're not just talking about that person next to you even. We're talking about that circle of trust that you guys agree with and believe in the same identical things to be able to accomplish and hit the same goals.
Yeah, that's right. We have some questions. So now we're going to get
Let's do it.
Into those questions. But first, if this hit for you tonight, if you are a high income earner and you are realizing, like, how is it that I'm living paycheck to paycheck? How is this possible? We know it all too well. We see it all the time, and it's okay. Today is the day that you start doing something different, and we're here to support you through it. If you haven't liked the stream, to all those in the chat who have started the like party, we really appreciate that. They've started the like roll call. If you've gotten value from this, we really would appreciate it if you would hit that like button. That signals that this is this has valuable information here, and so others can find it, right? But also, if you're new here, subscribe. We're here every Tuesday, and this is what we're in the middle of a series right now, talking about how to build a family bank, and we'd love to see you in the chat. We're about to give away the boat, so if you haven't jumped in the chat, now is the time. Now's the time. Okay, on to the questions.
Let's do it.
Maybe some comments here too. Let's see. Annie had a good one. Annie, are you there?
Is she okay?
Is she okay? I knew it. You beat me to it. Wait, didn't I start her comment? Oh, here we go. Okay. Where can a retiree invest their money and receive credit on their taxes at the end of the year? It's an interesting way to word this.
So where can a retiree invest their money and receive credit on their taxes at the end of the year?
Yeah.
Credit on their taxes.
Yeah.
That tells me that, because just so we're clear, the government is going to get theirs some way, shape, or form. So
Yeah. Okay.
the way I read that is you're saying, I don't want to be impacted by taxes today. So I want to avoid whatever the tax implication might be. And there's a few ways of going about that. I want to shelter it from taxes, meaning I want whatever that investment vehicle to be to grow and not be impacted by it. Or I want to make sure that there's no tax implication at all. Well, that's a challenge, but it's possible. I think it includes a few different vehicles, but let me just first start with this. I think we should be focused on making sure whatever the tax rate is, because we know it right now, we should be focused on, if there's a tax implication, I want it up front. I want it first, such that any growth on my money from this point forward has zero tax implication. So while I think I understand what your objective is, I come from the perspective of I would rather pay the tax today. So it's not, I don't want no tax burden today. I know the tax burden today. I would much rather pay taxes on the investment or whatever today, and any growth, any compound interest created from that vehicle from this point forward is now growing tax free. What I'm ultimately saying is our objective should be to live in a Roth environment. We should be leveraging and using our dollars to be placed in a position such that it's building tax-free growth, tax-free income, tax-free wealth from this point forward. And sometimes that requires paying tax on a dollar today so that it's growing in the future tax-free.
That's a bar. All right, I'm tagging in. Annie, the quality of the results we have depend on the quality of the questions that we ask. What you're asking is, how do you reduce the taxes that you'll pay?
Fair.
What you didn't ask is, how do you reduce your taxable income? Two different, totally different questions. One of those, you're putting money away that could be taxed later. So you're putting money somewhere so that you won't be taxed on it. The other way to ask that question is, how do I reduce my taxable income? And if you're new here, we only talk about strategies that we use personally. This became one of my favorite topics when I realized that we're paying somebody's salary in taxes. And I was like, whoa, this is new for us. This is a different problem, right? More money, more problems. And I don't want to do that. Definitely don't want to do that. I would rather give it to someone than just pay it in taxes, right? Like, do good with it. What else could we be doing? Because these millionaires out here, these billionaires out here, they're not even paying this much in taxes. So how are they getting away with it? And that was my favorite rabbit hole of the year. I wish I had music for that. Needs a theme. The point is, the quality of the results that we get is in the quality of the questions that we ask. And depending on your situation, depending on your structure, there is absolutely ways to structure yourself so that you can reduce your taxable income. Mind you, our main focus is to stay in a place of leverage, being leverageable. Staying in a place where we get to access more capital, more of other people's money to feed into our machine, right? Where's the leverage? How do we use it? What's the goal? Quality of the questions that we ask. But I don't even know that I would have known to ask that question, right? Because I remember going, well, how do we reduce our taxable income? How do we pay less in taxes? First layer, how do we pay less in taxes? Okay. Second layer, how do we reduce the taxable income? Okay, well, if we reduce the taxable income, then we probably wouldn't qualify for some of these other things, like requalify for a new HELOC for better terms or whatever it is that you're wanting to have access to, right? How do you continue to qualify for those things if you're playing this other game over here? And for some people, I think that it's just limited by the information that they have access to. For us, we know the power of information changed our lives. And so that's why when we learned this stuff, we were like, wow, holy cow, everybody needs to know this. So get in here and go and tell a friend to tell a friend, bring them too. We have had quite a journey in restructuring ourselves at every level. You think you get to the top and then you realize you're just at the bottom of another level, right? So now you got to go grab access to that information and all that applies to those situations and circumstance. Quality of the questions determine the quality of the results that we experience.
And the sad part is, as you move into these next layers and levels, a lot of this information is gatekept. And our objective is to unlock those gates and share that information with you. So as we learn it, we provide it. And I think one other piece around how wealthy people navigate situations like this. Like you said, hey, I'm retired and I want my money to grow, but I don't want there to be a tax implication. And how do wealthy people do it? Wealthy people spend leverage money. And
debt. For some people, you just call it debt.
Yeah.
But good debt.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you don't owe taxes on leveraged dollars.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's how can I put my income in a position to where it's generating growth, cash value, compound interest, call it whatever you want. But the money that I'm spending is a leveraged dollar, is a borrowed dollar. I'm spending a borrowed dollar. So therefore, there's no tax implication related to the dollar that I'm spending. And I think that's the other piece. So it's living in a Roth environment and it's understanding your leverage, which happens to be what we're going to talk about next week, is understanding where your leverage is located. Because when you understand how to leverage and use borrowed dollars, that can put you in a position to where you're spending a dollar that there aren't taxes owed on that dollar. And here's why. Ultimately, the income that you put into that machine that's producing that cash flow, that's generating that dollar that you're leveraging, you've already paid taxes on it when you put the dollar in. It's coming from your income. It's coming from savings. It's coming from a liquidated asset. But you're putting it in a vehicle that's building and generating compound interest and getting larger to the point where you can now start taking income or borrowing the dollars in that machine. And because you're borrowing the dollars in that machine and spending that, there's no tax implications.
Crazy,
That's the
right?
ultimate hack.
And that's it. That's the part is when you realize that the whole reason the retirement system was set up was to feed like self-sustaining machine, right? It was its own little machine that they had created that said, "Hey, listen, we'll give you a small win up front because we'll get a bigger payday at the end when you have to pay taxes in retirement." And now those people are having to pay taxes on those withdrawals, distributions, and having to deal with inflation. Not for everyone. That's not going to be you, though, because you're here. You're here with us on this channel and you're tuning in. You've subscribed and you join us on Tuesdays at 5:30 Pacific Standard Time and 8:30. We're in Arizona, so we don't change time. So we don't change time, but we change time zones, which is like really weird and confusing. I don't even know why it's a thing anymore. But it's almost become like a thing to see, will she get it right? What time zone is she in her mind?
All of them.
all the standard times. It's 5:30 somewhere. It's every Tuesday we're here and we're just talking about the strategies and what we've learned, bring you along with us so that you're not having to wait for us to go and then come back and get you. You just come along with us and level up. There's a lot of people who have had success right here. They've learned it right here. Like the Jovain family. They have from Miami. Hello, by the way, and thanks for tuning in. They have a HELOC now for the last 6 months. Velocity Banking and Discipline is working harmoniously. We've saved over $30,000 so far. Congratulations. That's amazing. Yes, absolutely. 6 months, $30,000. And it's just because of information, just because of strategy that they got for free on YouTube. Imagine that.
But my question is, now what?
Now what? Yeah. Well, that's the point, right? Yeah.
It's I've paid down the debt. I freed up the cash flow. It feels amazing. But if that money is just sitting there, it's called velocity banking for a reason.
Right.
It's meant to continue working for you. And I get it. If the 30,000 is sitting on your debt tool, you're paying less in interest. So it's actually still working for you. But is there an opportunity for you to compound it? Allow those dollars sitting on that debt tool to go make more money for you.
Yeah.
So that it can actually replace that debt tool in general. And then we can work backwards. We can do reverse velocity banking.
Yep.
Don't start.
Well, we're going to have to recycle through and do, and
I'm just throwing out words. I'm
and
just
do
saying
more.
things.
We're not though, because we did do like 3 different parts on how to the concept of reverse velocity banking. If you can see how powerful velocity banking has been for us, that's how we paid off our home in 4 years. If you're new here, how do you reverse it to build wealth?
Dun, 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 dun.
Stay tuned. Yeah, stay tuned. Cynthia says, "Thank you. I really need to book a call." Yes, if you haven't already, they're free. All consults are free. And you go here too for that. Just pretend like that says to book a call.
Yep.
Right here.
Self-directed.info.
That's it.
And when you go specifically to self-directed.info, there's 3 boxes there on the first page. And I think the first box is my calendar. Click on it, jump on my calendar, and away you go.
Yep. And there it is. Okay. Carlos says, hey, Carlos, by the way,
What's up, buddy?
you know what? Rob and Nathan, they were not behaving themselves. I'm just going to tell, guys. I'm telling. They were passing notes while you were having a class, right? And I was passing with them too, though.
Of course you were.
See? All right, we're good. So Carlos kept asking questions. He was staying focused. I just want to say, well done, Carlos. He did not take the
Didn't get
bait.
distracted.
He did not. He stayed focused the whole class.
I'm telling you, those
Proud of
guys
him.
need their own show.
Yeah, they do. They probably do.
And it would be a show about roasting me.
Yeah, we need a Sequoia, Nathan, Rob podcast, and B Marie. She's in there. She was hanging.
Y'all remember Beavis and Butthead, right? So it's me on the screen and it's those guys sitting on the couch just harassing me as to what's happening on the screen, right?
Just have a Rob and Nathan cam just randomly cut to.
That's it.
Yeah, that's perfect. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious, actually. Okay, so back to you, Carlos. Though, A student, not above Sequoia though. She's made it clear she's got the highest grade in the class. Carlos wants to know, who do you recommend for a trust?
Yeah, I get this often. And usually I start here. It's about your state. Like there are some great, I'll call it trust lawyers out there, but a lot of times they are specific to your state. So I think it starts there. And I'm a fan of layers of structure. I don't think it's a one trust answer. I think there's an asset trust. So this is the trust that holds and gives you anonymity, and it holds all of your rental properties and your crypto and all of those assets. But I think there's also a trust that lives inside of that trust. And that trust holds those vehicles that's going to absorb those assets when they get liquidated. It could be a life insurance based trust that has the ability to sit inside of your asset trust and absorb assets as they're liquidated. And the sole purpose and role of that life insurance based trust is to buy policies on people when they're born. Like it has its own role and purpose, but mainly that role and purpose is to distribute income. But who? Your question was who? I think it first starts with understanding what's available to what state you're in, because I think that's a much broader question. But when you're ready, if you want to get specific on who might fit you, once you've identified that asset trust, I think I can help you with that life insurance based trust that lives inside of it. But I think it's different. It's not a one size fits all. It's not a this is the person that only does it best. It really is state dependent.
And just because you find somebody, I'm tagging in, just because you find somebody doesn't mean you don't need to know about trust. Can't stress this enough. If you don't know what self-directed really means, it means taking control and making confident and educated decisions. That's why we go so deep into these concepts, because we want you to know them. We want you to be confident with the decisions that you are making versus just trusting that somebody has your back. It's not always the case, right? We've vetted quite a few different people where we've tried to, not to say that they weren't good. It's just that we didn't get through the whole process with them to be able to understand, because we don't really talk about a lot or promote a lot of other services on our channel. That's not what we do unless we truly are like, this is our person.
It's our jam.
Yeah, this is a fam at this point. And we do that. We have no compensation. We just go talk to them. That's how we roll over here. Okay, we got some more questions, so I want to make sure to bring them up. And if I've missed you, my bad. Okay, we have one. Javier says, circle of trust starts from within. Some people don't even trust themselves.
That's it.
That's so deep.
How can you build a family bank if you don't trust you?
Yeah, that's facts. Well, Javier, thank you for your contribution in the chat tonight, and welcome, by the way. I haven't seen your name before, I don't think. All right, Carlos, back at it again. See, this guy, he's the guy who asks the really good questions in class, and people are like, "Would you stop asking questions so we could get out of here?" Just kidding. Just kidding, Carlos. What's better, monthly, quarterly, yearly premiums, and why?
So monthly, quarterly, yearly premiums for what? What's the goal? But let me assume I know what you're talking about.
I may have missed one of his questions.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead and assume.
So let me assume what it is you're referencing, because if we're making monthly, quarterly, and yearly premiums, we're talking about some type of cash value life insurance based product. So what's better? Well, it's all about structure. And so making sure you have the right product, number one. But the other is what's the impact of the different type of premium, monthly versus quarterly versus annual? Well, it's dollar cost averaging. I would say the ideal situation is some lump sum upfront plus some type of monthly payment. Because what that will do is, if it's in the right vehicle and it's structured the right way, what's happening is it's an annual point to point growth on that money that you're putting in. So if you're putting in monthly, that means every month, once that year starts, every month you will see performance and growth inside of that policy. Consistent, the same performance and growth inside of that policy. If you're only doing an annual premium, on that anniversary is when the bulk of the growth happens. There's still incremental dollar amount that is growing inside of your policy on a monthly basis, but the largest amount happens when you put in the largest amount of premium. So I would say the difference is dollar cost averaging versus $1 amount, one lump sum working for you at one period. So I think the ideal structure is a lump sum early and monthly, consistent monthly amounts happening consistently so that you can achieve or take advantage of the dollar cost averaging. But my last piece to that is, I don't know that it matters long term. There is an incremental difference in the amount of money that if I'm putting in an annual premium and she's putting in a monthly premium, there will be a incremental difference between the money she made and the money that I made in total. That is true. But over time, as your money starts to make its own money, to me, it's inconsequential, because ultimately it's the same dollar amount growing over time, compounding on itself. And so the end result, it might end up being producing $120,000 of $120,000 of annual income compared to 135. 122, 128. So there would be a difference, but I think in the grand scheme of things, it's about pay yourself first. Some of us can only pay ourselves first in annual premiums. So don't not do it from the perspective of, hey, because I can't do some type of monthly or quarterly payment, I don't want to get started. No, to me, it's about just simply pay yourself first, get started in whatever that fashion is, and you make the adjustments going forward. I know I answered a lot more than you probably asked for. So
Yeah, that's true. But also understanding where you're
I answered a lot more than you probably asked for.
always. You're good at that.
It's true.
You're so good at it, though. The other part, though, is where your leverage is matters, because some people might go, well, I'll just pay this out of my cash flow, right? I'll just make this payment just to get started,
Yep.
not realizing that they have this whole other machine that they could be leveraging to make an annual payment,
Right.
or to utilize that cash flow in a different way to qualify for more leverage, for a better tool, better vehicle,
And I take that as
not car,
Right.
a money vehicle.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. But I take that as it's not this or that. It's how can I structure this to make sure I'm taking advantage of all of the aspects associated with it.
That's right. Roger, welcome. And thank you for joining us. We love seeing you in the chat. Yeah. So it went from the projects to owning my own home with a wonderful family. We spend like there is a money tree in the front yard. How do I learn to leverage my income via tax-free tool to build wealth? Got to have cash flow. It's the fuel. Can't drive a car without gas in it. And cash flow is the gas to your financial vehicle.
And this is a team sport. We can't go very far if I am the only one focused on the rules of the game and how the game is structured. I have to involve the other players, and it can't. I think what I am learning, it's not a I'm today years old type thing, but I am learning how you approach corporate environments and how you approach your family environments are two separate and different approaches. Um, and so when you're talking about building a team and you want the best players on that team to be and to play their roles in position, how you lead them on a basketball court might look one way, but how you lead them under your household might look totally different. What incentives they have to be able to be focused on that same goal may look different. And so how you approach that matters, man. So, I think it's peeling it down to peeling it down to the layers of what is your cash flow, what's coming in and what's going out, and are the participants who are playing this game with you, are they clear as to what the objective is? Have you effectively laid out the rules of the game and the impact that everyone's role plays in us being able to hit that goal? Or are you over here in your own silo focused on building this wealth, building this vehicle, and people, all they see is you're fertilizing the tree so that the leaves the money can continue to grow, and hey, fruits of that tree, what am I supposed to do other than use it? It's making sure that everyone is involved in how we address this team goal.
Yeah, this is a really uncomfortable conversation though, right? It's not easy for a lot of people to have.
Well, if it was easy,
everybody would be doing it. That's our show. Just kidding. Roger, we just recognize though that it is not as easy as just go have a conversation with your family.
Yeah.
I've had spreadsheets. I had spreadsheets for my kids, printed them out, gave them to them as digital versions. Like, let's do these spreadsheets. Guys, get in here. Spreadsheets. They're like, oh, why are you like this? I tried PowerPoint presentations because I just felt like I needed a different way of getting this information. I'll make a coloring page for you at 20 years old if I need to. Like, I don't care. I got to get the information to them, right? So then I try to be all cool, coming in their room, like in the middle of the day on a Saturday or whatever, right? And I'm like, hey guys, what are you doing? Oh, you know what I was thinking about? Trying to come up with all of these different ways. And they were like, are you talking to us about our futures again? Like annoying. And then one day they were like, okay, we get it. And I said, look, I'm not going to give up. That's the thing, is I love you far too much to ever stop. I don't care if it's cringy. I don't care if it's ew, gross, if it's embarrassing, the way that I'm trying to get this information to you. I will bake it in a cake if I need to. It's that important. And I get that we did not raise you with these concepts. Like, we get that. We didn't know what we didn't know. Yeah. And we have to start steering the ship in a different direction because you're in the boat. You got to pick up an oar. And I can't convince you that it's worth it for you to do. It's non-negotiable. And that's why I'm just going to figure out a way. We're going to figure out a way to make you mentally, emotionally stronger, to put this in the forefront, to make this a priority. This will be a strength of yours one day, and you'll thank us for it. But right now, we get it. We're the ones that gave you that allowed this to happen, right? We have to own that part. But continuing down because it's emotionally easier, that's the part that I think that is normal. You can find more people that would understand that than continuing to get into uncomfortable conversations just simply because it's the right thing to do. It's exhausting. Keep going. I'm here to cheer for you.
Because ultimately will it make the boat go faster?
That's right.
Because these are the individuals that are in the boat with you.
That's right.
Helping them. And we didn't know what we didn't know. So did we start as early as we would have liked? No, because we didn't start as early as we would have liked. But we're here now and we're in this boat together. So will it make the boat go faster? If not, should we be doing it?
That's right. And we use that story on purpose because it was deeply impactful for us. We've got it up on the wall here in our studio. We play this video all of the time. It's the reason why we give away not just the boats, but the vision board kit, right? Because this was, will it focus?
Yes, sir.
Manny's probably watching. He's like, see, no, it's because of the, that's a different thing. Does a different thing. Okay. Back to what I was talking about.
And scene.
And scene. We give this boat away because it is this visual representation of this concept. We're going to play the video in just a second. If you haven't jumped in the chat by now, please do. However, we're not on the one where you get to put hashtag boat in the chat. And I'm hoping that this thing works again tonight. The point is, it doesn't matter. Put it in there and we're going to pick somebody to win this boat. All right.
Yeah, we shipped out, I think I shipped out 3.
Yeah.
3 earlier this week.
But not everybody claimed their boat from last week. So they might not have known. Anywho, we have this, and it's, if you've not, maybe we should redo your vision board story of how we, like, what was the moment that things started to really shift for us? It was because I wanted to do vision boards with my bestie for New Year's Eve, and I was like, come on, do it with us. And he was like, whatever. No, thanks. You girls go ahead. And we had all the stuff, all the things
And the
to
wine.
do it. And the wine. We were having a great time. Perfect evening, right? Just intention. We were just like feeling so good about it too. Like, come on, Donnell, come over here and do it with us. He's like, all right, what do? You just write stuff on here. And we're like, no, like, you got to make it like nice. Anywho, he did what he wanted to do. And as a result, we ended up checking everything on his board off, primarily because I couldn't stop looking at it for reasons that are just petty and not okay. I didn't like how it looked. But the point was, I ended up looking at it and giving it that energy or whatever it was. I was so focused on his goals too, that we ended up checking off his goals. That's really what happened. So what we did was we said, hey, if you haven't put a visual representation to every single day, stay focused on your goals, we're going to help you with that. So we have some like things to get you started. Maybe you think it's a dumb idea like Donnell did. Maybe you think, I'm not going to do that. Why would I do that? And then you get this kit. Or you do your own. You don't even wait for the kit. You just do your own. And you realize, like, you know what? I have to look at that every single day. And that helps me keep things in focus. That was the whole point. It's not magic, right? It's not magic.
It's the power of intention.
It's mindset. Mindset shapes your decisions that you're making every single day. Mindset reminds you of where it is you're going. Because if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. That's from Alice. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to give away this boat to some lucky winner who's been in the chat. And the only thing you have to do is comment in the chat and it should bring you up. Okay. We're going to play the boat video so that you understand exactly what this story was and why it really seeded inside of us. And it became pretty much a mantra. Where's it at? Here we go. It became pretty much a mantra for our family, our friends, and our community. There are so many people that are right here in the chat and they have one or more boats for their family. And we love that. So here we go. This is why we give away the boat. In 1998, a British rowing team dreaming of the Olympic gold found themselves ranked 7th. Their focus had always been on the competition day, but they realized the keys to reaching their highest potential were hiding in the decisions that they'd make over those next 2 years.
Faced with 2 obvious choices, continue their current path and expect the same result, or give up, they discovered a third transformative option. They united under one guiding question: will it make the boat go faster? Every decision, every action was weighed against this mantra. If the answer was yes, they could or would have to do it.
If the answer was no, it was forbidden, non-negotiable. Prior to the competition, this team was doubted and ridiculed, but no one knew what they had been doing. And once they hit the water, they were nearly unrecognizable, achieved their pinnacle, and won the gold. So we ask you,
What is your goal? What are you willing to do to achieve it?
will your story feel unrecognizable, even to you? Are you willing to light your beacon and stay focused, stay committed? Is your story non-negotiable, or are you waiting to find out how you ranked? Your financial future is not a game. You are only competing with yourself and those in the boat with you, your family and the many generations to come.
Will this make the boat go faster? A sounding alarm, beacon of clarity amidst turbulent life decisions.
It's not just about speed, but direction, purpose, and an unwavering commitment. Every choice, every sacrifice aimed at the goal.
The first agreement this team made was to become fully self-directed, making their health their wealth, adopting a new perspective on their time and freedom, and the decisions they could fully control to reach their goal.
Will we make your boat go faster? That is our pledge to you. Our mission is to arm you with knowledge, strategies, and insights to ensure that not only you reach the goal, but you do so long before your race is over.
Oh, you already did that. Okay. All right. So here we go. Let's see here. Golly, I can't get this done fast enough.
I can already hear music though.
All right, let's spin. Who's going to win? Here we go. See, we got everybody on here tonight. So that's the fun part, is it did work. Hey, Bonita. I didn't see her in the chat. Oh, good. Congratulations. Well, you know where to go, Bonita. Same place. Right here. We got to move it now. To grab the boat, too. They make this so hard to change. Just pretend like it says to grab the boat, okay? And that's what we're going to do. Okay, we're going to spin again. Who else is winning?
Nathan had like 35.
Yeah, Nathan has 57,000 votes. He can have a vote anytime he wants. And he's got a bright future. Hey.
Rob has, that's Beavis and Butthead again.
That's right. That's not quite right. Oh, Roger. Okay, we got a message. Okay, Roger. Congratulations, by the way. Get in here, down here at selfdirected.info/live. Maybe that's too loud. And go claim your boat.
Yep.
Let us know. Oh, you know what? I don't think this... We've been pointing at it the whole time, but it wasn't here. It's right here. Magic. That's magic right there.
So Benita, Roger, go to selfdirected.info/live. Hit, what is it? Click on, did I win a boat or did you win a boat?
Did you win? Are you the winner? You'll see confetti, and then you click on that, fill out the form, let us know where to send it. We just send it right up.
And that's all.
Up
We
to
just
you.
need to know where to send it and we'll get it in the mail too.
That's right.
And if you were on last week and you won a boat, because I think there's one person that did not claim their boat last week.
That's right. I want to say it's Low Dog. Did you get your boat? I don't think you did. I think you got a boat, sir, and congratulations in case you missed that. Could have just missed
I
it.
think you're right about that.
Yeah, you don't want to miss this.
Yeah.
Promise.
Again, selfdirected.info/live. Go collect your boat.
That's right. And I personally love to know, because I like to put a little note in there. Send it off with some love. All right, let's see here. Here we are. Okay, so if you haven't grabbed your numbers and to understand what your cash flow is, hope you enjoyed tonight's discussion around this, because next week we're going into
Leverage.
Donnell's favorite topic.
Yeah, leverage is the reason why we were able to transition from the 2008 crash into short selling our home, into being able to qualify finally for a home, to being on a path to financial freedom. Like, it is all based off leverage. And I would say when we were initially going through it, I didn't understand the power of leverage. I understood other people's money. I understood, hey, I want to, as little of my money in an opportunity and be leveraging and using others as much. Like, I understand that part. I understand a loan, borrowing money from a bank. I understand that, but not the power of how leverage can transition and change the full trajectory of where it is you're trying to go. And that was velocity banking. And if you can understand leverage as it relates to velocity banking, your mind goes, wait a minute, there's leverage everywhere. My 401k is leverage. My home is leverage.
Yeah.
That stock portfolio, crypto, like, there's leverage everywhere.
Right.
And if you can understand how to use that leverage, you have access to vehicles, not cars, vehicles, tools that can help you generate and build compound interest. The goal is wealth. The goal is a family bank. So understanding where your leverage is located is how you're able to achieve those goals. Again, first starts with cash flow.
That's right.
First starts with paying yourself today. First starts with making sure your money is in a position to be secure. But then you have to compound it. So what are those leverageable vehicles you should be putting your money in to be able to compound your money?
And if you have somebody who's in your household right now, somebody who is in the boat with you right now, and you're thinking to yourself, like, they're rocking the boat. They are not going to believe it is worth staying in this boat to get to where we need to go. Then they're probably like me. I did not believe. I thought that he was crazy. I thought that what he was talking about didn't make any sense. Why would he do that? Who does that? Well, I'm so glad we did. And I'm so glad that eventually I was able to get on board, because our futures have completely changed. Our children's futures have changed. Our grandchildren's futures have changed as a result of me being willing to look at something a little bit different. And it was that word leverage.
That's it.
For sure.
That's
yeah.
it.
Well, I hope that we've answered all of the questions, at least this evening. If we didn't, go here, book a call and get on a call. Just
Costs nothing. Get on a call.
Just get on with
talk
Donnell.
through what the opportunities are, what the direction is you're trying to go, and let's see what happens.
Yeah. And if that's not for you, then jump in the comments, put a comment down below, and we will get to it as soon as we can. But always come back here. Come back when we're live here, and join in the community, other people who are just like you, just like us, on their journey to financial freedom, whether they've already gotten there and they're helping people up, or they are halfway up and they're bringing people along with them. If that's you and you got value from tonight, come back. We want to see you back here in the chat. We love to see this community grow, and we love to see how it is the cheer section, I think, is what I'm really trying to say. The cheer section inside of our community is amazing.
It's a family.
Most people don't have access to have these conversations in their circles, right? Has to start somewhere. It may take a while for you to be able to bring people in. Don't wait to get started because of that. That was us. We had to kind of be the lone rangers, right? The pioneers, to blaze the trail first for most of the people that we knew. And it was lonely, and it was scary, but it kind of brought us closer together because we couldn't talk to anybody else about it, right?
Very true.
And so that there's a lot of benefits there. But for some people, they started right here in our community, and they were the first ones. Their spouses weren't on board. They just wanted to learn, and then they wanted to understand how to get their spouse on board, and they were able to do that. And as one example, T Strong, I think he was in here too. When their spouse gets on board and they start to see the results and they start to see the proof, that probably is the biggest factor that I can say will convert somebody over from absolutely not, I'm tired of hearing about this thing that you're doing, this strategy, right? To how did you do that? Yeah. How did you do that? We could have been doing this the whole time. Are you kidding me?
Once you see it, you cannot unsee it.
You can't unsee it. Yeah. And one thing I will tell you, no one can take away from us, is that we have paid our home off in 4 years. It was just a little over 4 years to pay off an entire house. Are you kidding me? There's a lot of people out there who will say it's a lie. There's a lot of people out there that will say it's impossible. We're the proof. And we need more people like you to go and be the proof too. So we move farther and faster when we go together. We truly believe that. We want you to be a part of it. We thank everybody for tuning in with us, because we know that time is the most valuable asset that we have. And we're so grateful that you're spending your time here with us. We like to end with, we like to end with, if you didn't come from a wealthy family.
You can make sure a wealthy family comes from you.
So stay tuned,
Stay protected.
stay focused.
Stay connected.
I'm Angelique,
And I'm Donnell.
and our goal is to help you.
As always, get self-directed.
And to do that, we have a ton of free resources. So stick around and we'll show you how to get those. And we will see you back here next week. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys.
Hey, before you go, we want to remind you that becoming fully self-directed means gaining complete control over your wealth, time, and freedom. It's not just an idea. It's a framework, a mindset, and the power to make informed decisions to secure your future. Being here means you're taking those steps, and we want to thank you for allowing us to guide you. We believe that we grow farther and faster when we grow together. So tune in next time and tell a friend to tell a friend. We've helped thousands of people just like you start their journey to financial freedom. And if they can do it, you can too. And if you're ready to learn more, we got you. Get a head start by grabbing these 2 free books. But how do they get them, Donnell?
Head over to my website where you'll have access to a few things. A ton of free resources, case studies, and over 100 5-star reviews from people just like you. And in 15 minutes, we can explore what's possible for you. So don't wait.
Invest in what you want, when you want.
But first, let us help you
Get self-directed.